Farhan, it's been a while since one saw you on screen, a year and a half to be precise. So it feels like you've just been off the radar.
Yeah, I spent my time doing music.
Right.
That's what I was doing. It's as important to me.
Of course.
And as passionate. You have to be as passionate about it as you are about a film.
True.
So since I wanted to put this album out, it needed time away.
Correct.
From other things where I could just focus and make it the best that I could possibly do it. So that's really where I was.
You released your first album. You were working on that. You were touring with your music.
Yes.
You finished one film. You go into prep for another one.
That's right.
The company, of course, keeps you busy because you're producing a bunch of films. So it's not like you've been holidaying. Although, having stalked your Instagram, there's been some of that too.
Yeah, a little bit. Not too much. I do feel that what for me is important is to just focus on quality work. Sky is Pink is an amazing script. And Shonali really has put a heart into making it. And then of course there's Priyanka, there's Zaira, there's myself. And now the film that I'm getting into, Toofan with Rakesh, is also extremely exciting.
Yeah.
And it's requiring a serious amount of effort.
Right.
And you have to wait for the right things to come along as well.
Sure.
There's one thing, of course, that you look at it as a job, and then, okay, I like to get up and go to set.
Right.
But there has to be something more than that also like kind of motivates you every day apart from a paycheck,
right.
To do it.
Sure.
And I don't want to sound like smug about it, but I'd rather focus in on production, and working with other directors like with Zoya, with Rima, with all the directors that we work with,
right.
Who are doing their passion projects, and support them, or the web series that we're doing, and wait for something to come along that really, really makes you want to get up and do it.
Sure. I want to talk about Toofan, which is the next film that you go into. It's the film with Rakesh Mehra, in which you play a boxer. And again, having stalked your Instagram, it feels like prep is in full swing.
Yes,
and it looks like it's pretty intense.
It needs to be.
Right.
I have next to no knowledge about boxing till we got on to doing this film. At least with running, when we did Bhag Milka Bhag, I used to run in school.
Right.
So I had a basic idea, of like what it requires from you, the demands of it, the challenges.
Sure.
The feeling of being on a track.
Correct.
All of that I inherently had that within me. But with this, it's a completely different arena. And it's not only about physicality, it's a mind game. With running, it's not. You just run flat out as fast as you can.
Right.
But with this, it really is, it's like a game of chess going on with the mind of the other guy.
Right.
And at the same time, you have to be insanely fit,
right.
To be able to survive and give back and take. So there's a lot to learn. And I'm enjoying it thoroughly. And that's the one amazing thing about films, Rajeev.
Yeah.
Is like it
So
constantly, it allows you to do
these
these things. Otherwise, who's going to take up boxing?
Some years ago, Farhan, we spoke for this segment that I do called The Film That Changed My Life. And you spoke very passionately about Raging Bull, Scorsese's film. You spoke about just how much you enjoyed that film. And I feel like, looking at Toofan, is this sort of the closest you'll get to doing a Raging Bull?
Yeah, I would imagine. I don't know. After this, I will do another boxing film.
Right.
I don't know. Unless there's a Toofan 2. Nowadays, franchises.
Right.
You never know. But for me, of course, it's not that you feel that, you're going to replicate that because it's possible. Nobody has managed to do it.
Sure.
But it gives you a lot of inspiration.
Right.
Because I remember scene by scene.
Yeah.
That film. I remember that performance of De Niro's performance so like vividly in my mind. And it's like what you just get inspired by it. And you feel like, oh my God, you're getting an opportunity to do something that just belongs to that space. Sure. So at least do it as well as you possibly can.
Right.
So hopefully when people watch this film, it maybe affects them. In a similar
way. You said that you watched Raging Bull during that phase in your life when you pretty much locked yourself in a room for a year and watched films throughout. Zoya calls it your film school. She says that
well, she's being very kind now.
She actually went to film school.
Yeah, in retrospect, she's saying it was my film school. At that time, she used to hate me constantly be sitting in front of the television set.
But you used to watch like 4 or 5 films a day at the time.
Yeah, easally.
And these were the films that sort of had a huge sort of impact.
Yeah, this was one of them. There were many like this, but there were few that I constantly went back to.
Sure.
And that was one of them.
Sure. It feels like sports is as sort of intrinsically linked to your life as films are. You've always been a sportsman, you've always played sports,
always.
But now you're off to Spain to attend the Champions League finals as UEFA's official guest from India. Are you looking forward to that?
I really can't wait. When the Sony Pictures Networks guys, they called me and they said, would you like to go?
Right.
I mean, it's like, like
Yeah.
somebody asking you, like, would you like an Oscar? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's what
it's
it
a
feels
no-brainer,
like.
correct.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Right.
So I was like, absolutely. I mean, there's no two ways about it. I mean, just tell me what I need to do, because it's really been a dream of mine, to go and watch one of these games live, and especially a final.
Yeah.
Because these sportsmen, these athletes that we're going to see on the football field, I mean, they play, of course, for individual countries, but the cream of that,
Correct.
comes together in these teams that we are watching now.
Yeah.
And so when they play, the football is just of another standard, of another quality entirely. Because everyone who's filled any position is the best person to fill that position
Right.
in the world. So it's not that the team is like, oh, they've got two great strikers, but everybody else is kind of support.
Right.
Everybody's
They're the
a
best
star.
teams, right.
Everybody's a star.
What team are you rooting for?
Well, I was rooting for Man City.
Okay.
That's the team that I was rooting for. They unfortunately in the quarterfinal stage got knocked out. So now I'm just there for the love of football, and may football win.
Who's your favorite player?
Well, it over different generations it's been different
Sure.
players, of course, because when players retire, of course, you have a lot of love for them.
Right.
But then somebody new emerges, to kind of give you that excitement again. I love Aguero, who's a forward, a striker for Man City. He's a great player. And then, of course, there's the greats. I mean, there's Messi, there's Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, the skill that they have is phenomenal.
Sure.
But I think the one who's probably in my heart as the greatest, I think, would be Diego Maradona.
Of course. There's a new film that that Asif Kapadia has actually made on him. It's a documentary that's I think going to Cannes.
Okay.
Yeah.
He made Senna.
That's right. He made Senna and he made
which was
Amy,
amazing.
Which was amazing.
Yeah.
They were amazing. Farhan, the other big love apart from sports is music. You've just released your first album, Echoes. It's got 11 tracks, and some of them are really good. The one I really like is If Love Isn't
I think
Enough.
you like the emphasis on some.
No. That's not.
I'm kidding. Some of them.
No, I listened to some of them. They were very good.
Thank you.
The one I really like is If Love Isn't Enough. Farhan, what inspires the music? I know you've said that what you've learned from your father's work is that every song should tell a story. Every song tells a story, and it must tell a story.
Yeah.
What inspires your music?
Well, I mean, I don't know where it comes from, of course. I mean, there's a certain urge to express, in a certain way. And films allow that in a certain manner. But then there are, I don't know whether you want to call it poetry, that I'm writing, where I feel more comfortable to share it in song than to stand and recite it.
Yeah.
That makes me feel more comfortable. So it really stemmed from there, and I started writing a lot over the last 3-4 years. Like there was this burst that happened, of wanting to really write. And while I was doing that, it felt very natural to me to play it on guitar and kind of create it into a song. So because you want to share it, and I'm like, I'd feel happiest sharing it, in the form of a song. So that's how it kind of happened. And I mean, and then once I decided, okay, that's what I'm going to do with it, then things just started flowing.
Right. You've said that your music is very personal, that they're about things that have actually happened in your life. That's true of your films too, isn't it? You've said that Dil Chahta Hai was inspired by moments from your youth. Laksh, you've said that the protagonist's sense of directionlessness.
Yeah, Zoe, I'll tell you about that. Which she now called my film school years.
Absence of purpose, you've said, was inspired specifically from a phase during your life. Is it hard to dig within yourself to create your art?
It's not difficult to dig into it. I think the big decision is how comfortable are you sharing it.
Right.
I think that's the thing. I mean, I feel that as film people, you try your best. I mean, if you're making, of course, a particular kind of film,
right?
To be as naked as you possibly can. But so how willing are you? How willing to be embarrassed are you?
Yourself,
to expose yourself are you? I think that's the big question. And that really is the challenge. I don't think finding inspiration within experiences that you may have had, is the tough part. Is like, do you want to talk about that?
Right.
I think that's the big thing.
Did it take some getting used to?
Initially it didn't. But I feel like now, and more so in the acting space, because, I mean, of course you're drawing from the script. You're drawing from the history that has been created for that character by the writers. You're taking all of that in, but somewhere you have to find synapses that are going to kind of tie in with something that you can relate it to as an emotion that you've experienced in your life. And that digging deep is very, very interesting. That process,
Right.
you know, that when you're in a scene or when you're preparing for a scene, you know, to say like, I remember that this had happened and that's how I had felt. And I mean, of course, you don't want to like repeat that in your head,
Right.
but you remember what it felt like, you know, and it takes you to places where at times you had forgotten completely
Sure.
about. And I find that very, very interesting.
But is music a lot more personal in that sense, because it's just purer writing about it as against writing a character,
Yeah.
which will then be molded by actors and sort of
Oh
personalized
yeah,
by
absolutely.
them?
I mean, see, filmmaking is completely a collaborative team process in terms of even the final story that comes out.
Right.
You know, I mean, every single person who gets involved, the writer has a version, then the director alters that version, then the editor alters, actors
Right.
alter it.
Right.
And
There's many sort of, imprints
but
on it,
with
yeah.
writing a song, and especially if you're not in a band,
Yeah.
you know, when you're doing it just
It's
you
a
as a singer-songwriter,
Right.
it's just you and your thoughts, you know, and then the musicians come in to support that thought.
Right.
You know, is what it is. So it definitely is a lot more personal. When you hear the songs, every single song means something to me
Yeah.
on a very personal level. You know, it does. Where every film, of course, has been a great experience,
Right.
but it doesn't necessarily mean something to me on a personal level.
Sure.
You know, like on an emotional level.
Right.
But all these songs, I mean, they are an extension of things in my life, thoughts in my life.
Right.
So it is a lot more personal.
Right. You know, since we're on the subject of music, I feel like we have to talk about Gully Boy,
Right.
which of course you and Ritesh and you co-produced with Zoya and
Yeah.
Rima. It's this beautiful film, which is
Lovely.
also so affecting. It almost feels like it is to rap music in India what Rock On was to rock music.
Well, I mean, that's a great compliment for Rock On, actually.
Right.
You know what I mean? No,
It was
seriously.
a good film.
No, of course it was. But I mean, I do feel that I don't know, if you can bring music which is where they want to call it underground, on
Right.
the periphery, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
you know, or in some kind of a subculture, you know, if you want to bring it into mainstream, and if a film can manage to do that, to create then bigger stars out of the real performing artists, and give maybe a better livelihood, they can earn some more money, they can get more recognition, more fame. That's great.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, if Gully Boy and if Rock On has done that for rock music and for hip hop, then I mean, it's just an amazing feeling to have been a part of it.
The production company's been extremely busy, hasn't it?
Yes,
You'll have done considerable work within the digital space as
Yeah.
well. There was, of course, Inside Edge, and then there was Mirzapur, which was
Yeah.
very good. And then, of course, you all just knocked it out of the park with Made in Heaven. Farhan, how involved are you with the commissioning or developing of these projects?
Well, I'm as involved as any creative producer should be and is.
Right.
Which is, I mean, greenlighting when the story comes to
Yeah.
you, what it's going to be about. So, I mean, essentially the A to B, you know, of
Right.
a season, or if it's already broken up into 2 or 3 seasons, where it's going to go. So, I mean, that is something that you have to be very clear on. And then, of course, there's a writing team, you know, that kind of gets cracking on it, and then you're sent episodes and you read. So, I mean, you're just there as a creative producer,
Right.
is what you do. And that really is my role on it.
You know, Zoya said she's really enjoyed working in this space. She says
Right.
it allows for long form writing, which film doesn't. It allows you to really develop character and worlds and not rush through scenes. Also,
You know,
that she-
I think it's a little bit more than that. I think it's a little bit more complex than that, because I feel that, I mean, films can also do that.
right.
But I feel that you're being allowed to explore more nuances in this.
Sure.
I think that's what it is.
Okay.
You know, and you're being able to focus more on grey. You're being able to focus more on even the dark side.
Right.
You know, which in film, unfortunately, because of certain restrictions, you can't do. So this gives you an opportunity to be a lot more liberated in your writing.
Right.
You know, to be fearless.
Also, the
in
lack of censorship.
Oh, absolutely. So you can be a lot more fearless
Right.
in the way you tell your story. So the nuances of characters definitely are a lot more in when you write this stuff than in film. But
Right.
I don't feel that it's like you can write better characters in this. You know, it's not that.
Right. How likely are you to work in the medium, or how interested are you?
I mean, for me, I mean, right now, I mean, of course, like I said, like as a producer, I'm very, very interested.
Right.
I do feel that there is, I mean, this is something that's completely here to stay.
Right.
You know, and any film producing company is already lagging behind if they've not started thinking about this or taking it seriously.
Sure.
So there is that. And as far as whether directing or acting
Yeah.
in a web series, I mean, it
just has to be
absolutely,
the right-
yeah, it has just absolutely be the right one to do.
Okay. Farhan, the next film we're going to see you in, which you spoke about briefly, is The Sky is Pink,
Yes.
the film that Shonali Bose is directing. It's based on the true story of Aisha Chaudhary, a young girl with severe combined immunodeficiency who underwent a bone marrow transplant, then succumbed to pulmonary fibrosis or severe lung damage. But not before she became a motivational speaker and became an author and really inspired a lot of people. Priyanka Chopra and you, of course, play the parents of Zaira Wasim, who plays the protagonist. What drew you to this story?
Well, you know, I mean, it's really a story about extraordinary people, and they are, I mean, they're heroes. You know, I mean, really, they were dealt a very strange hand, you know, by life. They had already lost a child without knowing what this disease was about.
Right.
They only learned about it once the first child had passed away. And still decided that they wanted to have their own family. So when their second child was born with the same condition of skin, they really dug so deep, you know, to give her a full life.
Right.
They did realize that maybe it may not be very long,
Right.
you know, unless of course more medication or more cures can be found. But given everything that they had, and given this desire to keep the child alive, to give her happiness, let her have a happy life, a memorable life.
Right.
You know, I mean, it really is an extraordinarily moving story, and a story that really should be told, because we find this kind of heroism and this kind of love. It's pure love.
Yeah.
You know, it's, I mean, I would say it's all around us, but we see it so rarely.
Right.
You know, so that really is something that drew me to it.
And then, of course, there's been all this talk about Dawn 3, that a script had been hammered out, that you're already going to production, but then...
We've been having this conversation about Dawn 3 for a couple, close to 10 years.
Are you telling me that nothing's moved since then?
No, nothing has moved since then.
Really?
You know, I've realized that
It's not my favorite franchise.
I know that.
So I'm not
I
asking
know
out of,
that.
like,
Please notice.
So I'm not asking out of-
What is your Twitter address? Please tell everybody right now.
the Dawn fans will come after me.
So you can get all those hate posts, which I'm getting for not making the film
Right,
currently.
right.
But it's, you know, it really is one of those things that has really a life of its own.
Right.
You know, it constantly keeps trending and going
Yeah,
away
yeah.
by itself.
But all this
like I'm
news
worried
now
to meet
that-
Shah Rukh now that I meet Shah Rukh and people are like.
But you're telling me
"Hey,
all
big
of this is just nonsense. I mean, that it was all ready to go into, but now it's sort of on hold till he decides what he wants to do.
No,
next.
there is no such thing.
Is there a script?
There is no script.
Is there an idea?
There are many ideas, but there is no script.
Are you missing directing? Do you miss directing?
Not at the moment, to be honest, I don't.
Okay. Well, we are the beneficiaries of that because you act, you get to make your music as a result. Thank you so much, Farhan. Looking forward to lots more.
Thank
you for.
And can I please tell all your people watching that before they go, what I'm here for?
Yes, please.
Yes, it's very, very important. I must say this. That I'm here so that all of you tune in and watch the UEFA Champions League. Right? It's going to be showing on Sony 10/2. So please do watch it. I'm going to be there. I'll be sharing all my experiences with you all while I'm there. So make it a point. It's one of the biggest football events of every single year. So enjoy yourselves.
Thank you. Have a good time
All
in
right.
Spain.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.